Welcome to the NABS podcast. NABS is the support organisation for those working in advertising, marketing and media. I'm your host, Louise Scody. Each week I'll be chatting with someone from our industry to find out how they support themselves and those around them through challenging times as well as the day-to-day. And it's all to help you support your own mental wellness. I can't wait to start chatting. My guests today are James White, Michelle Sarpong and Sue Todd. James White is Commercial Director for UK and International at SeedTag, where he leads the UK commercial strategy. Before joining SeedTag, James spent 19 years at the ESI Media Group, with his last position being Chief Commercial Officer for the Evening Standard. Passionate about working with progressive-minded businesses, James put culture and values at the heart of his leadership. Michelle Sarpong is Head of Activation at the Seven Stars. Michelle is a seasoned marketer with an extensive track record in prominent media agencies across the UK. Michelle was listed one of Campaign's top 10 media buyers in 23 and 24, as well as being named a campaign trailblazer and making the IPA iList 2024. She's also part of the founding committee for the Women in Trading Network. James and Michelle are both brilliant supporters of NABS, and their respective organisations can be found on this year's Yule list, this year's industry list to be on, which celebrates NABS' brilliant donors. We also have with us Sue Todd, CEO of NABS. As well as leading NABS, Sue is chair of the All-In Mental Health Committee and an active member of both the Time 2 Steering Committee and WACL. Sue tries to practice what she preaches by living a work-life balance, so on her time off, she's often to be found at the theatre, cycling or meditating. Sue's the proud mum of one teenage daughter and one dog. Welcome, everybody, to the NABS podcast festive edition. Michelle, you can't see this, but Michelle, she's got her reindeer ears on and everybody else is full of festive spirit. How are you all doing today?
Very good, thank you. I'm very excited to be here with two of my favourite people from Adland. I know I'm not meant to be biased, but I am.
Thanks very much for having us both on, actually, especially post the North London Derby on Sunday. I'm very glad to see Whitey.
We can cut that if you want, but no, thank you. Merry Christmas, everyone, as well. Everyone that's listening. Great to be here. Thank you very much. And thanks for that intro, Sarps. We promised ourselves we wouldn't get on to football. This is much more important than that. So
you knew I had to slip in there, It's all about a festive cheer and mental wellness.
It's a yellow card already.
We've got the football digs out of the way, so that means that we can now go on to all things festivity and mental wellness, and then you can return to ribbing each other after the podcast is done. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining me. This is super exciting. It's our biggest podcast gang yet. So let's jump straight in, thinking about Adland's biggest mental wellness success this year. So one thing out of all of the initiatives and developments that we've seen across Adland in 2025 that has really struck you. Michelle, let's start with you.
Been kind of seeing across like LinkedIn, there's a lot more companies incorporating like mental wellness in days or weeks into their kind of businesses and actually being quite vocal about it, which I think that's really important, because I think there's one thing doing it within your companies and not really talking about it, but I think it encourages other companies to kind of offer that kind of opportunity for their staff and actually being like, it's okay to take that time out. I think that's been probably quite successful that I've seen, and actually it sparked conversation within the industry, which is great as well. So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest win I've seen this year.
James, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's really important. So for me, I think it's quite difficult to land on one big success. But I feel that collective accountability is the thing for me. I think I've seen much more consistency across companies putting mental wellness at the heart of their business, at the forefront. I think if you think about the last 5 years since the pandemic, it's been a case of raising awareness. I think there's definitely been more action on driving outcomes, which has been really important. And just to expand, I would add, we work for probably the most creative industry in the world. And I think it's great when you actually see adverts actually bringing it to the forefront as well. Like 3 quick ones spring to mind. I mean, the calm one in between back of 24 in the US election was really good when it just took 30 seconds out. Brands like ASICS are doing it. The actor Brian Cox did a really great advert which talked about taking 15 minutes back from your desk. And then McDonald's did that brilliant campaign where they took away the smile from the Happy Meals. And as a parent, that really resonated with me. So I think all in, I think there's more authenticity right from the start to the end. I think that's been great, really.
Yeah, you know what? I would agree with both of you as well. And something else that's maybe brings those two together is there's a lot more chat generally, proudly on LinkedIn and other spaces from Adlanders saying, I experienced this burnout, or this is how I look after myself, or even talking about those issues that feed into mental wellness, such as working parenthood or being a carer, which I think has been really encouraging to see. Sue, as the person at the helm of mental wellness in our industry, what do you think we've done super well this year?
I completely agree with Sarps and James that I think it's less of a there's one thing and more of a I honestly think, as the kids say, there's been a vibe shift.
Yep, vibe shift, we'll go with that.
I think has genuinely been a vibe shift. I think there's been a sort of really big realization, a tipping of the balance that, with the level of exciting change in one respect, but also structural change that impacts people in another, that, businesses have to lean in, and they do, partly by supporting NABS and by what they do themselves. But there's also been a slightly different conversation about how it is our collective responsibility for sure. I agree with Socks, but you know what? You also have to do it yourself, I think. And I think I've been encouraged by businesses leaning in. We can still do better, but also people leaning into individual responsibility a bit in terms of either fundraising for NAPS and individually saying, actually, I want to do my bit, but also sharing stories or strategies or ways they cope. Because I think we all know that, there is no panacea, silver bullet, one size fits all approach to staying well, mentally well, in the same way as there isn't for physical health. But, sharing ideas, strategies, things that have worked for people means people have a menu of choice to learn and feel inspired from. And I think that sort of balance of not blaming each other. The business is not saying the people need to man up and the people not saying the businesses need to sort themselves out. Feels like that conversation seems to have got a little bit more positive and we all are leaning into we've all got to do it.
So, do you think that's your key takeaway from this year when we're thinking about how to support the mental wellness of our teams? Is it that sense of show and tell and discussing what's worked for you that you think's really key?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think you do have to show as well as tell for sure, but you have to do both. I think there's something about just I mean, I sound like an American self-help book here, but just that radical acceptance of how hard this topic is sometimes, and not feeling you're being blamed for it as either an individual who's struggling or a leader who hasn't got all the answers or a business who's started one thing but it didn't quite work and they need to do something else because this is hard stuff. Although, I think we've all worked in the industry long enough to know that there's lots of exciting things that happen when change comes. But, it's also does drive anxiety for people. And if you're on that edge of excitement and positivity's tipped into something harder and more chronic and more long term, and it's affecting your, ability to cope, then it has to be okay to say, I need some help. And it is becoming more accepted. But it has to also be okay to say, I'm going to go and do some work myself if I need to. But also, hopefully my manager, business leader, NABS, industry will also support me. And it has to be I hate the word partnership, but it has to be a kind of honest partnership between all of us. I mean, I have to look after my own mental health. It's me who builds the strategies on how to cope with, crap that comes my way in life and work. So, but I also expect, and I'm really proud, I work in an industry where it takes that topic seriously and there is always more we can learn and always more we can do. So I'm not saying we're doing it perfectly by any stretch of the imagination, but I feel like we've shifted into a slightly more radical, a more honest conversation, I think.
Yeah, I agree with everything Sue just said. I think it is about kind of the listening and providing that kind of safe space. I think that's been really key because I think, we've kind of been doing, some people have been doing that in buckets in terms of like listening to kind of certain individuals. But as Sue said, it's a kind of partnership. Like we should all be, listening and learning from each other and creating that safe space for people to actually feel comfortable sharing what they're kind of going through. And then strategize partners like in terms of like how we work through that together individually. There's that kind of thread that we're all taking away from all of our businesses, and it's a collective responsibility. Hence why I love, working with NABS as well, because it's not just on NABS to kind of provide that support. It's kind of on all of us. And for all of us to do that, we need to first create that safe space, no judgment. I think before, there's a lot of stigma about mental health and the judgment that came with it. And I think, luckily enough, I think we're moving away from that. But we still need to make sure that we are doing the work collectively in partnership across the whole industry. I might work for the 7 stars, but at the same time, there's other agencies I can learn from initiatives they've done to kind of help the collective, because it's all about the people, right? It's not actually about the individual companies, it's all about us as individuals, making our way through this crazy time, this crazy world, this crazy life, right, together.
James, you're kind of nodding away there. And especially at the bit where Michelle said these crazy times and this crazy life, do you think there's been something particular about this year where maybe your key takeaway about how to support your team's mental wellness might be different or have shifted a bit?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it sounds slightly cliche and obvious, but the best businesses, recognize that support and put people at the heart of their business. That's like a non-negotiable. When we think about culture, an old coach of mine always said, pragmatically, it means how do things get done around here? And nothing gets done, to Sarp's point, without people. We're in that transitional AI phase where there's continued automation, but humans will always be on and always continue to be. I think that that sounds obvious, but let's put people at the heart of what we do. And I think to your point, Louise, certainly this time of year, everyone's chasing Q4 targets or Q4 pitches or pitch outcomes. It's really busy. And I think that, again, the good businesses step back and say, guys, make sure you look after yourselves, take some time, because it can become very all encompassing. So I think it is exactly what Sue and Sarps have said. It's being open to call that out. And I work for a global business now. The majority of my career I haven't. And I think that having confidential Slack channels, having a safe space and having that forum publicly that is always on just reminds people that actually, yeah, you've got your network. Yeah, you've got people to go to. But in business, there are people there amongst the people team and amongst the safe space. If things are not right or you feel slightly overwhelmed, then reach out. And as we know, as Sue's implied, it's that first step, isn't it? And I think having that first step of going, it's okay to not be okay. I think that's all important. So long-winded way of saying, I think you've got to put people at the heart of your business, and that's a non-negotiable.
100%. I'm really interested in the confidential Slack channels. Do you find that's where people go to first if they want to open up about something?
Well, I mean, because they're confidential, I wouldn't know that. In the 9 months I've been at CTAG, I definitely know it works. And I think we've had, the chief people officer talking about how well it's been received. And I think it's not just that. That's in addition to everything else we've talked about. But I think that is almost publicly saying this is there for you. And I think that's really important, because 5-10 years ago, these measures were not in place, and you probably were down the pub or in a coffee shop or wherever, just going, can we have a quick chat? And that needs to happen. But I think the more companies make things more official or make things more confidential and say, hey, we're here for you, the better it is for everyone.
Now, both James and Michelle are absolutely brilliant because they are part of our donor community. And this year we've been celebrating our donors, the ones who power NABS purpose, with the Yay list, which is this year's industry list to be on. So we're going to reveal the full Yay list in campaign on the 10th of December, but this is a sneak peek at two of our brilliant winners here. Now, you're both such good advocates for NABS, as well as being mental wellness leaders in your own organizations. You're making sure that the rest of the industry can benefit from that passion and that dedication that you have to the cause. So thank you. So it'd be really great to hear a bit about why you support NABS, because there are so many charities out there. Why NABS? And what kinds of things are you doing and your organisations doing to support us? Michelle, why don't you start?
So why I support NABS? Because I guess we've touched on it, the well-being of people is really, really important. And actually the work that the NABS team do, Sue, Lily, is brilliant, right? And I know people throughout my whole career that have used the service and it's been invaluable to them. And I guess how I've actually had a very long journey with NABS. So I was one of the kind of buyers that Charlie Parkin used to call individually to check if we've got a pledge for her to secure, which was a great effective way, because basically when she used to call and I didn't have a pledge, I'd ignore her call and then find her a pledge and then wait for her to call back and tell her, don't worry, Charlie, we've sorted one out. So I've been kind of like supporting NABS from that level to now working at the 7 stars, where we've actually kind of become part of the securing the pledges as a whole agency, which has been amazing. I think actually for us, it was one of those things where like actually we wanted to support in any way we can. Also part of the activation and trading elements, we're talking to new partners like every day and actually directing them to NABS as well, just going, do you guys pledge to NABS? Do you kind of support them and kind of grill them in that way? Because I think it's all of our responsibilities collectively to have that conversation. It's not just down to Sue, Lily, and the team. It's up to all of us because it's for the good of the industry and our agencies individually. So that's kind of how we support NABS in any way. And obviously, any events, I shall be there too.
What kind of NABS events tickle your fancy?
Stranger Summer, I mean, that is a great event, isn't it? You see, it's basically, I treat it like my wedding, even though I've never been married. Like, walk around and just say hello to everyone. It's everyone who's everyone's there. It's a really great event. It's really good fun. And everyone's just in good spirits as well. And actually, to be fair, there's quite a good piece of like actually seeing the actual impact of NABS to real people. And actually some of those videos really bring home the stuff that people do. And it gives everyone a sense of like reward. So like when you're obviously fulfilling those pledges, battling with those media owners, when you then see the results of like how it's actively affected and changed someone's life, that's invaluable. You can't buy that experience. So yeah, I'll say Stranger Summer's my favourite event.
I love that you're having an annual wedding. So
No, why not though? Why not?
So for those of you that don't know, Stranger Than Summer is NABS's annual summer massive party. It is very famous in the industry, and we have around 800 people each year coming just to party. We'll eat, we'll drink, we'll dance, and the video that Michelle was just referring to is like you would at many charity events. We have a video where we showcase one or two people that we've helped that year so that people can really understand what they're giving their money towards. And I'm very happy you highlighted the video, Michelle, because that's one of my major projects during the year. So thank you very much. So James, talk us through how you're supporting NABS and why, what's driving you?
Well, firstly, I just want to jump back to Sarp's point. When she emails to close down a pledge, I think most people make sure it jumps to the top of the to-do list. So I think just to endorse your continued support of NABS is a good thing because, you don't want the wrath of Sarps, that's for sure, in a good way. I think that I've always, wherever I've been, I've always seen myself as an ambassador for NABS because I think that Sarps has said a lot of this, but certainly the last 3 years as well, there's so many great people at work or people that need help. And just to sort of plug a few things that just continue to astound me, really, the NABS advice line, I think last year was over 5,000 calls coming in. And when you think about the resource that NABS have, it just blows my mind that they're able to cope with that and actually give back and do good. And I think that just needs to be remembered. So Sue and the team do a wonderful job with fairly limited resources. And we've touched on Stranger Son, which I didn't realize I was going to Sarp's wedding, so that's always good to know. But I think beyond that, the other things things that get forgotten, like the work you did to identify that managers needed support, that managers mindset training is really important because I think that it seems obvious, but if you crack the managers and you give them all the tools and upskill them in how to cope with teams, then it benefits everyone. So I thought that was really, really great. So yeah, and then there's great workshops. So I think there's for the team, I think it's having an always on relationship and partnership just reminds everyone that there's so much more. And it is actually, talking about Stranger Summer, it's much more than that. And I think that's the bit that I've always made sure that the team are aware of. So long may it continue. I mean, it's a non-negotiable for me, and I hope that many more businesses continue to support.
Well, there's so much to pick up on there, Sue. I mean, as the CEO and overseeing everything we do, you can tell us how tangible that support is. And if we didn't have people like James and Michelle, we wouldn't be able to accommodate those 5,200 calls to the advice line. Wouldn't even be able to put on Stranger Than Summer. What are you thinking of that we've achieved this year that we're really proud of and we have only been able to do because of our donor community?
look, the fundamental reason why the donors and what James and Sarps are referring to is so fundamental is because it's 2/3 of our funding and it's set at the beginning of the year. And if it's more or less guaranteed for the next 12 months, then that is the backbone of how NABS is able to ensure that it has the service provision in place to not turn away any of the 5,200 people who ring the advice line and find the right level of support for them. You can't get away from the fact, and I think that's the reason we sort of, felt the Yale list was so important, from saying that, an upfront donation that's converted effectively by 7 Stars and a couple of other agencies means we guarantee the service provision. So that is fundamental. But, equally important, I think, is what James and Sarp both represent brilliantly, is advocacy. Because the way that we spread the word, both to make sure anyone who needs the service knows about it, because that's fundamentally important that everyone in the industry knows there is something available for them when they need help, but also to activate other businesses or individuals to lean into, is through advocacy. Because there's only, so much, as Sarps has says, that we can probably do ourselves in terms of shouting about NABS and driving awareness of NABS and understanding the NABS. So, inspiring other people and other businesses to say, we should also do something, we should also donate, we should also raise money ourselves, we should also, as an individual or as a business, lean in a bit harder, is huge. So, it's not to be underestimated that the money matters, because it means it's the backbone of service provision. But the advocacy and the ambassadorial role that people like James and Sarps play is massive too, because it spreading the word and inspiring others is, you know, is essentially marketing for NABS to get other people to raise money and do stuff too.
Absolutely. And it means that the people in your organisation will find out how they can benefit from NABS as well. I mean, James, when you talk to people about workshops and they go on them, what kind of feedback do you get?
Well, it's life changing without being too dramatic for some people. I think there's, you see a lot of it in the video content that NABS show every year, but I think there's so many. That's the other thing. There's so many great workshops. And I think that people I know that have gone on them, first of all, some of them didn't know they existed a few years ago. And I think that's been the step change within NABS, and making it so specific and outcome focused is a real great thing that the team do. So yeah, hugely beneficial.
I've been a mentor a couple of times actually for NABS, which I've loved. I honestly, it's such a rewarding thing to do, to give back, especially as now I've noticed that a lot more people are coming from further afield from like the traditional advertising and marketing industry. There was someone who works in like production for like a TV company, which was amazing to have a conversation about them and what they're kind of going through, and the support that they need. So I think those sessions are very invaluable to everyone that kind of joins. And I think well done for NABS and the team for putting that on, because that is one of those things that people might not be getting that support in-house with their teams and their organizations. But by you guys putting that kind of event on, is allowing people to get support in a different way, which is invaluable in itself. So yeah, it's fantastic. So well done to you guys.
What Michelle is referring to is our speed mentoring events, which we typically run twice a year. So we'll have a group of fabulous mentors, and then they will each have a group of people. So it's almost like group therapy, but in a mentoring format. So that means you get to hear everybody else's questions, and you kind of hunt as a pack, as it were. So they might be asking something you were thinking, which gives you then the space to ask something else, and you bounce off each other. And Sue, is the atmosphere at those events not completely electric?
Yeah, totally. Inspiring, I think, it's an overused term, but you do come away completely inspired and there's something, sometimes people do need individual support, of course, and confidential support. And that's one of the massive pluses of NABS, that it's confidential and impartial. And that's why people, despite their own businesses having brilliant support as well, sometimes still come to NABS because they want to go outside. But the collective work that we do, people in a room, as you've just described, hearing each other's questions and hearing the responses and ideas shared almost semi-publicly in a group, is also hugely important, because, often we think our challenge, our issue, whether it's something from home or something at work, is, unique. No one's ever experienced it before. It's only happening to you. And I think sometimes just hearing somebody else say something similar that you're thinking, or hear a response from a mentor like Sarps that you go, never thought of that. Even as mentors, you can learn from the other mentors, because let's be honest, none of us have got all the answers here. And, how could we possibly have? Because things are changing all the time in terms of the challenges around us, but also how we're responding to them as human beings. We're not static either. So even if you had it now for the first 40 years, you might not have it now for the next 40. So, listen and learn is my kind of advice. And that's why I love NAV so much, because of that balance of individual support, but collective learning as well.
Yeah,
And I guess
absolutely.
it's really good at driving that network and community feel and collaboration, because you actually do make a lot of new friends from it, or new contacts that, again, post that session, you could kind of continue to support each other in different ways. It might not just be around like us as management, but it could be in like they're looking for roles, etc. So it goes beyond and just that one session, which that's what I love about it, and I keep coming back to do more.
You've hit on something there, that notion of community, which certainly I've seen us really dial down on since Sue joined us. Not just because Sue is a massive people person, but also because we can see the data shows the value in community regarding mental wellness. James, what do you get out of seeing the wider community come together?
Well, I think Sarps has covered a lot of it, but I will back you on that. I think Sue's been transformational for the business, for the charity, and all of these great tactical measures weren't in place previously. So I think that it's come at a really important time without stating the obvious. And I think that collective understanding that it's NABS is more than just a couple of parties a year, without sounding crude. It's much more than that. It's always on, and I think that yeah, community is something that we all endorse in our own personal lives as well as in business. And I think that the networking is really important, actually, Sarp. So I agree with you on that because I think that people turn up at these events well. They have fun, of course. They donate, they're giving back, but they're they're improving your network. You're probably like the best at doing that. So I think maybe no wonder you're a mentor. But yeah, I think it's extraordinary work, and I think that again, shining the light on people that think it's just a couple of events. It's so much more than that. That's something I would wanted to get across today, really.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I
agreed.
guess it'll be really good in terms of like actually for people to know the breadth of stuff that you actually do. There is literally something for everyone to get involved in. I think that's what you've done brilliantly over the last couple of years. It's actually, you've got a golf day, you've got like a walking, cycling. There's so many different things that people can get involved in different ways. So I think I commend you guys for that because actually it's adapting to people's needs and what people are kind of generally interested in to build that community. So yeah, well done to Sue and the team.
Thank you. I hear you. Thank you very much. That's really nice to hear. But I'm going to go right back at you because the truth is that we've just facilitated more people leaning in the industry as well, which I think is massive. People like yourselves, but also, it's led to more people stepping up individually and saying, you know what, I could do something around my passion that would be good for my mental health, that I could also raise some money. So there's been so much more individual kind of hand sticking up going on in the industry to say, I could also raise, James Cornish at Vivo is a good example, who's just started some crazy fitness challenge with 12 other people, 24-hour thing that I don't understand because that is not my vibe. But I'm pleased it's other people's. And obviously I totally get the link between physical and mental health and applaud it. But, there's just more people coming to us, which is so rewarding, inspiring, encouraging, because for me, it means there's more kind of advocacy going on and there's more sense of collective responsibility, which, is genuinely inspiring because people want to help. And I think I've always thought we had a very generous industry. I haven't worked in it for 25 years because I don't think it's full of really generous, kind, good people who get this stuff. But, it's nice to see them leaning in to support NABS and by their full default, people they don't even know in other parts of the industry get that help.
This is all very feel good and festive, and rightly so. However, we must address not just Santa's nice list, but also Santa's naughty list, I'm afraid. Now, the A list is obviously the nice list, and everything you all just been talking about is brilliant. Goodwill to the whole community. However, where there is nice, there is naughty. Believe it or not, there are organisations in our industry who are not donating to NABS. So how can we get them on the nice list and save their Christmas?
Big question. Shall I jump in there? I think
Please.
You've been on many naughty lists in your past, haven't you, Whitey?
yeah, Louise, that's just misinformation. I think for me, as a parent, let me start there. This is a time of year where if you ask my two daughters that do they want to be on the naughty list, absolutely not. I think parents have probably the easiest time now with best in class bribery, and I think that's quite easy for a parent. But I think the same can be the case for media businesses. Why on earth would you not want to be on the A list when you're showcasing to your people, to your staff that work tirelessly for you, that you're putting mental wellness at the heart of what you do to help the businesses and the industry move forward, which is essentially NABS's mission. So I think it's just, again, it's a no-brainer. And I think taking my bias hat off just quickly, I think tactically, maybe there are some other businesses that can help. The Jan sales around the window. So if there's media leader, campaign, DigiDays, businesses that want to give up some space and showcase what NABS do, I think that's great. And then lastly, actually, I'm always really moved by the brilliant videos at all the events. And I think that actually, Sue, can go further. And I think that as a collective industry, we should think about ways that we can, whether it's old school intranets or platforms or our own businesses or however we do it, we should make sure that's always on because
Yeah.
you make a difference. And I think that needs to come through. So, yeah, it's obvious for me to be on the A list. And I'm proud to be on there as in my new business. But I think that, yeah, don't ruin Christmas, guys. Get on the A list.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll be slightly more generous and say, I think not everybody knows enough about NABS. So, the continued marketing advocacy, exactly what James has just expressed and suggested, more widespread sharing of the difference we make, the impact we have. And that's on us and, people who also know us to continue to spread the word for sure. So I'm going to say some people don't know us and, we have to get to them and persuade them. And that's all part of, that's essentially my job. There are different businesses have different structures and ways that they can help. So my question is always just look, if you can't do a straightforward donation, which is huge, as I said earlier, because it's the kind of way we guarantee income and provide the backbone of the service, then talk to us about whether there's another way that you could lean in, either raising money yourselves or coming up with an idea that hits one of your business objectives in terms of getting your suppliers or partners or customers together at an event and having an element of fundraising tied into it. And then that becoming the donation back to NABS, because we get that every business has different pressures and we get that everyone's structures don't enable the same type of fundraising necessarily. So talk to us. We'd love to help with more innovative ways to help the industry. So yeah, I'm going to say if you're still on that naughty list, then, maybe it's too late for this year, but 2026, you can certainly make the switch.
Michelle, what do you think? How can people be less Grinch and more festive and yay-less next year?
I feel like Sue and Whitey covered everything, but I think sometimes just throw cash at the problem. Cash is king, guys. Just throw cash at the problem. But sorry, in all honesty, I think we have
You're
to...
winning again.
Yeah.
We're back there, guys. We're back there. I think Whitey touched on a really good point earlier when he talked about the use of NABS's service. Like, that has grown. Like, we can't get away from the fact that it has grown exponentially over the last, 5 years? And obviously that does cost money. So I think we need to be realistic in terms of like organizations like NABS to keep them at the heart of our kind of like industry and keep them going. We kind of have to support them. And one of the ways is cash. Cash, whether it's like the pledges, it doesn't have to be much either. I think people look at things and think it has to be a massive amount. Like, every little helps. I think that's a key thing to note as well. And as Sue touched upon, there's different people doing it, individual things to kind of raise money. It could be anything. And I think the guys are really open to those kind of conversations. Also, I think look to, I know people aren't aware of all the stuff that NABS do, but look to the services that NABS provide. At the Seven Stars, we kind of use this counselling service where, a NABS counsellor comes in every month to kind of like, be there to kind of support our teams, just someone who's slightly outside the building. So it's that safe space confidentially that people can go to seek help if they should need it. So I think looking at all of the NABS services in terms of like actually looking at them first to support and how you can support in that way, as well as just coming up with kind of different ideas. We can't get away from the fact that, we're living in kind of scary times in the advertising world. Like, the industry is getting and the landscape's getting smaller. There's a lot of consolidation happening. Companies not even surviving in some of these changes in the market. So people are going to need more help than ever. So anything you can do, please just lean in or ask one of us who's on the A list, which is a spoiler alert. But thank you very much. I love it. Ask any of us and we can happily support the team and give you ideas of different things you can do. But remember, I'm a trader. Cash is king, guys.
There are no excuses. That literally every possible way you could support NABS was just listed there. So do get involved. Now, we're in the festive season. It's a lot of fun, but it's also a lot of crazy. As you said before, James, people trying to hit their targets before they skip off for the year. There's also all of the parties to attend, and then you've got your family and friends wanting to see you as well. What's your top tip for supporting yourself through the festive season? James, let's start with you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm just going to go back to the elephant in the room, which was the shameless North London derby plug first of all. So I am a Spurs fan. So for any Spurs fans out there, just don't watch any football over the festive period. Wait till Christmas. That's a good place to start. But no, it is like it is that time of year. Lots of plates spinning. It can be very overwhelming at times. So I think my top tip would be turn up well. Say no to some events because that's okay. Pressing pause during December is equally as important as pressing pause when you've shut down. So don't crash into Christmas, put yourself first. And again, those businesses that promote that are the good ones. That you cannot go to everything. I mean, I think maybe SARPs is the exception, but no, I think make sure you look after yourself and slow things down. And I guess if you want a catch line, it's 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 reset, it's refresh yourself and rethink things for the year. So I think, don't let it become just a in between Christmas and January thing. Look after yourselves now.
Yeah, absolutely. Michelle, are you really going to go to every party? How are you going to support yourself through that?
It's interesting because actually, I mean, I agree with everything Whitey said, but actually, and also it's okay to leave things early. So I think that's the thing. I think sometimes when we go to certain events, we're like, we have to be there to the end. I mean, I can't talk 2 weeks ago. I was out till 1 and 2 a.m. the day after each other, but that was a blip. I'm back in the room now. But I think it's okay to actually just go somewhere and just go say hi, have a quick drink or non-alcoholic drink, and then leave. I think that's okay. I think sometimes there's pressure to actually do all things, at the same time, but it's okay just to pass by. I think people appreciate you there at least for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. That's okay. That's not looked on negatively. But I agree with Whitey. I think it's okay to say no. Take the time that you need as well. Because I think, it's a long festive season and actually we've got work pressures, we've got like individual pressures, we've got family pressures. I think just always take a minute and just go, actually, do I really want to do this? Will this make me happy? And then make that decision. And I'm going to reach out to all the Arsenal fans and say, football's good right now. Carry on watching Arsenal playing. But I think do the things that you enjoy. I think we'll talk about football, but I think like going to the gym, taking that time out, if you need a flexible working kind of request, put that in. I think do what's right for you and actually do the things that you do enjoy. Because I think, let's not forget that, life is for living. Let's do the things that we like. So yeah, that's my advice.
So, well, Sue's nodding along there, and I know she agrees with you because before we hopped on, she was talking about her strategy for maximising parties for 3 hours and then going home. Weren't you, Sue?
I was. I mean, I'm the oldest on this call, but not necessarily the wisest. But yeah, I think I'm finally realizing in my latter part of my career and life probably that, you don't, the 3 drink rule, the 3 hour rule is probably a good one to live by, particularly this time of year. In the first 3 hours, and if you do drink, in my case, for the first 3 tequilas, you probably have a really great time. And hours and drinks 4, 5, and 6, not so good. So, leaving after 3 or 1 or 3 minutes, whatever as Sarp says is appropriate and you feel you can do, or not going at all is absolutely fine. For me personally, it's the 3 hour, 3 drink rule.
Very sensible. I'm the most vanilla person on this call. I'm like 1 chocolate milk and then home to bed with a good book. Now, we have come to the end of this podcast. It's gone super quickly. It's been so enjoyable. As we look forward to Christmas and to a brand new 2026, what is your festive message for the industry? Michelle?
So my festive message for the industry is it's been a tough old year for everyone. I think there's been lots of conversations around consolidation. We've seen a lot of like restructures happen in the market, more to come in the new year. There's all talks about AI taking over all of our jobs. There's a lot of things that's going on that's quite worrying. But I think if we just remember to kind of keep talking, keep leaning on each other, and get through this festive holiday and get well-earned rest, we'll be ready to go again for 2026 and, hit all those challenges head on.
Yeah, I mean, just to round off, I think it's less time on your phone, look up more. And just going back to the theme that we touched on earlier, I think it's just when you're having a bad day, there are people around you, and check in with people. I think that's something that I try to do. I try to have a 3-person rule every week where I haven't spoken to someone, even if it's WhatsApp, just reach out. How you doing? I think that's something that I also appreciate the other way around. But I think for now, for the festive period, I think I'll tighten up that strapline. I think rest, reflect, and then reboot. We go again.
Absolutely. And Sue, what's your festive message?
I mean, I think it's more than just at Christmas, but I think it has a particular resonance at this time of year. I suppose my message is more generosity, less judgment. And I don't mean generosity in terms of presents and drinks and parties and all those things, although sometimes they're nice too. I just mean generosity to, your fellow co-worker, your fellow colleague. You never know what's going on in people's lives, heads, that day, that morning, that week. And I think, to build on the points that everyone else has made about pausing and reflecting, sometimes you've got to pause and reflect so that you can remember that, because we're all, running at 100 miles an hour. So yeah, just a little bit more generosity, less judgment is what I'm trying to live by myself. Not necessarily doing it perfectly, but, trying to have that word with myself every day and just, take a little bit of time to reflect, pause, and try and make that the way that I show up at work.
Well, I hope this festive season brings you all that you've wished for the industry and more, and that you all get a chance to rest, chill, look after yourself, establish a sensible drinking and eating pattern, and come back refreshed for 2026. So thank you so much for joining me. And also, if you have been listening to the NABS podcast throughout the year, then thank you so much for your support and for sharing the pod. And it's been absolutely brilliant to have you along as part of our listener community. We look forward to more conversations next year. In the meantime, Michelle, James, Sue, thank you so much for being absolutely fabulous, both as people and supporters / leaders of NABS.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Happy Christmas.
Thank you. Happy Christmas.